Do you think all cultures are equal?
The point is...
Do you think all cultures are equal?
Yeah.
You do? So you think so Islamic culture, which says a woman is the property of a man, that's Islamic culture. You think that's equal to Western Christian culture? Do you?
I don't think it's the way to think of the Muslim, no?
You don't think? So
extremism, yeah.
So no, not extremism, no, Islamic culture. So let's go to Pakistan. Yeah, is Pakistan's culture the equivalent of British Western Christian culture? Do you think they're equal? This is a difficult question because it's going to shatter your whole worldview. Do you think they're equal? Come on, do you?
I don't.
You're scared to say. Do you think they're equal? See, I'll tell you. Islamic culture is a third world shithole. Yeah? Our Western culture, civilized, far superior. Far superior. The best culture in the world. This culture that oppresses women, executes homosexual. This is backward and degenerate. Yeah? So I can comfortably say that because I don't have any master who's going to sack me. But you, again, I'll ask you the simple question. Islamic culture, Christian culture, are they equal? Are they equal? Come on.
Yeah.
Go move to Pakistan then. Would you move to Pakistan? If it's so beautiful. Go live under Islamic culture. So I guarantee you, you don't live surrounded in Islamic culture, do you?
I'm not very a specialist of the...
So you're not a very specialist. But can I ask you, so before this job, now, you was an expert on what?
Terrorism.
Expert on terrorism. So you're an expert on terrorism. The majority of terrorism is what? Islamic? So you're an expert...
No, we have a far-right terrorism in France now.
Oh, same numbers? Equal playing field, is it? Similar arrests?
In USA, yeah.
Similar arrests? Yeah.
In America, yes.
No, we're on about France.
Far-right is worse than...
But we're on about France, okay. So I'm asking you. So you're a French journalist. Your job specifically is to be an expert on terrorism. The majority of terrorist attacks come from Islam. The terrorists, when committing their terrorism, quote what? The Quran. Don't you think, just slightly, that to be an expert on terrorism in a country like France, that's Islamic jihad, you should have done the basics and understood the Quran?
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
No, I know.
And you haven't read the Quran?
No.
No, fucking hell. You see, oh, God's sake. So you're not an expert on terrorism.
For me, it's
because for you,
politics.
Because for you, but how do you know that? How do you know it's about politics? How do you know that every one of these...
The way that you behave with the Muslim in France that influence their behavior now.
But you don't know that because you don't know.
A fiery on-air confrontation between British activist Tommy Robinson and French radio journalist Gail Joly laid bare one of Europe's most polarizing questions. Are all cultures equal? What began as a debate over integration and extremism quickly spiraled into a broader argument about the very nature of cultural values. Robinson pressed Joly repeatedly with a blunt question. Do you think all cultures are equal? Joly hesitated, insisting that it was not the right way to think about Muslims, but Robinson seized on the hesitation as evidence that Western societies have lost the confidence to defend their own traditions. Robinson argued that Islamic culture, particularly in countries like Pakistan, is fundamentally at odds with Western democratic norms, especially on the treatment of women and Lugbatku communities. Joly countered that such statements conflate the actions of extremists with the beliefs of ordinary Muslims. However, when Robinson asked if she had ever read the Quran, given her role as a terrorism expert, Joly admitted she had not. That admission became a turning point in the debate. with Robinson questioning the credibility of journalists and analysts who comment on jihadism without first-hand knowledge of the religious texts extremists claim to follow. The clash reflects a larger European struggle over how to balance free speech, security, and integration in increasingly diverse societies. Robinson represents a strain of populist nationalism that frames cultural difference as an existential threat. Joly, by contrast, represents a mainstream liberal view that emphasizes political, rather than cultural or religious, causes of extremism. This debate is not merely academic. France and the UK have grappled with rising tensions between Muslim communities and the broader society, especially after terrorist attacks claimed by jihadist groups. Public discourse often oscillates between calls for tolerance and fears of cultural incompatibility. The Robinson-Joly exchange illustrates the widening gulf between those who view Western democratic values as universal and non-negotiable, and those who argue that cultural diversity can coexist within the same political framework. It also highlights a recurring frustration among populist critics who accuse traditional media voices of being unwilling to confront uncomfortable questions about religion, gender roles, and security. As Europe faces elections and ongoing immigration debates, such confrontations are likely to intensify. The question posed in that radio studio, "Are all cultures equal?" continues to reverberate far beyond the walls of a single broadcast, shaping policy discussions and public sentiment across the continent.
Look, Angela Rayner has been wasting public money, no doubt. You mentioned the two beds, as opposed to two Jags Prescott, two beds Rayner, I suppose you might want to call her. But, you know, I mean, if you compare her with Boris Johnson, I mean, the amount of money Boris Johnson spent on tarting up Downing Street, I think it was a six-figure sum in the end. You know, I'm afraid that these abuses of public money go across different parties. And, you know, you may remember, Ben, from years and years ago, I was the MP who exposed the MP's expenses scandal by my Freedom of Information requests. And I had no idea when I did that, just how bad things were. But, I mean, you know, give people a budget, they'll spend it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and isn't it indicative as well of how politicians and particularly government just absolutely frivolous with public money? It's not their money, so they don't care. They'll just, you know, spaff it up the wall, as Boris Johnson would say. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, when I first got to the Department for Transport, I said, how do I get to the Commons? Can I have a bike to get me to the Commons? Or a bicycle, I mean, to get me to the Commons. They said, no, there's a driver downstairs waiting for you to take you to the vote. And I said, well, what's he doing there? I don't want him sitting there all day doing nothing. I was actually only the second minister ever to refuse a ministerial car. But, you know, people lap them up. They see them as status symbols. And you're right, you know, I'm afraid too many ministers of all parties see these things as status symbols and don't really mind how much it costs because they're not paying for it.